Hey, what's up, guys? More Halloween reminiscences. Okay, by the time the mid to later 80s came, I started having to go to high school in another neighborhood. So I had to start taking the subway in about 87 in New York City. By myself when you still had the token that had the little slot in it where like you could, it was like a Y, probably BTD, you probably remember. um yeah. What a great time to be a white kid by yourself on the train going from downtown Brooklyn. um anyway, it's Halloween was just something you started to avoid at this point. It wasn't, I didn't care about scary movies. I didn't care about the candy. It was just on that day. How did you avoid getting jumped? How did you avoid having eggs thrown at you, shaving cream? How did you avoid rocks getting thrown at you? Okay, you know, around that time, the one thing I did though, is a prank. It was mischief night. It was the night before Halloween. On my block, on the street I lived on, uh, across the street, you had more like kind of residential house. They were still apartments, but they were kind of like duplexes. Whereas I lived in something that looked like a damn housing project. So, and the people across the street, they kind of, a lot of them thought they were kind of better than us on the other side, right? So, night before Halloween, I decided that I was gonna do something funny. Right? And meanwhile, on this street, someone had been run over. Some kid got killed. That's why I wasn't allowed to cross the street for many years, because this kid got run over. Right? So I went across the street because we didn't have garbage cans where I lived. If you had garbage, you had to go in the back and throw it in the dumpster, where the garbage, the sanitation truck would come and take it away. But the people across the street, they had garbage cans, right? And they still had the metal ones back then, which were used a lot in like gang fights and stuff. Anyway, so one night I decided, you know what, I'm gonna play a prank. I took all the garbage cans. Okay, there's no cameras back then. I took all the garbage cans at night. Uh, it was like 10, 11 at night. People, where I live, people all had jobs. They had to get up and go to work the next day. So my ass grabbed all the garbage cans from across the street, right? And I made a pyramid of garbage cans in the middle of the street, and no car had come by. It's because it was kind of late. Um, Although I was looking around any second, right? But I managed to stack it up real quick, and then I just went inside and laughed. So the next morning, I got up, to go to school, and I looked, and like they were smashed all over the place. Some had been picked up and brought back, but there were still garbage cans. Somebody had rammed through them. I thought that was so cool, man. And nobody knew it was me, but I heard that people were not happy about that. So the people across the street. So anyway, so pretty much by the in the '90s, I had moved to Pennsylvania for the first time, and I started to discover things again that I remember as a little kid. Halloween parties, like people were more, I won't say civilized, but there was more of a, there were still pranks. Uh, for some reason, people upstate and in Pennsylvania, they think it's funny to throw pumpkins off of freeway overpasses, which smash through cars. But I never did that. Um, but I was starting to enjoy. I was getting older. I was starting to enjoy going to parties and talking to girls and whatnot. And one night I was walking to a party and some punk ass kids threw a bottle at me. Now this happened in New York a bunch of times, but they threw a bottle at me, and so I picked up. I threw it back at the car. I missed, and I chased them, and they drove off. And meanwhile, I don't even think I had anything on me, right? But and then the party was crazy. I was having fun. Remember I was talking to a cowgirl. She seemed to be into me, and we were talking, and was drinking the whole time. Okay, not I was drinking beer, and then I was drinking about four different kinds of liquor. Okay, Uh, and I had gotten on to like the second six pack. I think this was 94, 1994, yeah. And man, I was on top of the world. So I didn't even have a costume. I don't think. Yeah, I didn't even have a costume because I was too cool for that. Right. Um, and all of a sudden, I started to feel. I didn't feel that good. Right? And all of a sudden, I said, "Excuse me, I have to go outside." And the house of a friend I was staying with, there's a back rail, back deck, and I proceeded to spend the next, I don't know how, it seemed like forever. I probably spent like an hour or two laying over the back deck, throwing up. And I actually thought at one point that I probably was gonna die. And I remember how I felt when I thought that. All I could think about was my mother being upset. I actually didn't even care. And then I remember a friend of mine saying, "Yo, dude, you're fucked up." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit." So he had a car. He actually had a car. He pulled me in a car, and I remember uh, in the car, like with my head out the window, and at one point at a red light, I remember opening the door and falling out. And throwing up because I didn't want to throw up in his car, so I threw up all over the sidewalk. And apparently there was a commotion going on. There was cops nearby. I guess there was some mischief going on that night, and there was cops there. My buddy's like, "What the fuck you doing?" I said, "Bro," he's like, he grabbed me, brought me back in the car, dropped me off at the place that I was, the apartment that I was sharing with like three other dudes, and I passed out, and I woke up with the garbage can next to me that he put next to me in case I had a vomit. And I'll never forget, for the next 3 days, all I could smell was peppermint schnapps in my. That was one of the liquors I was drinking. Peppermint schnapps smell in my sinus passages for the next 3 days. And man, that was horrible. So I mean, had to call out sick from the job I was, and the guy was not happy. But they were not calling out sick back then. Everyone was like, "Oh," everyone gave you like a big deal, but I didn't give a shit. I don't think I could even stand. So now, years later, let's see. Um, I'm back in New York City. I'm actually working in the city, and I'm living in an illegal apartment, a basement apartment. It's the best apartment I ever had, other than the roaches. And there's no heat in the bathroom, or there's no heat actually at all. The pipe that heated the building, that was your heat source. So it'd be freezing cold in one part of this apartment, and then super hot in the middle, right? So you had to sleep. I would sleep like halfway away from the pipe and from the draft in the winter time. Right? Um, so now I'm having more fun with Halloween. I'm working in the city. One of my friends, my oldest friend, I gotta say this, my oldest friend, sort of came out of the closet. And it was like, the late 90s, early 2000s. So I was like, you know what? And also I was very left wing. So I'm like, oh, that's cool, dude. You know what? I'll protect you from anybody, right? You know, and so Halloween was a lot more fun, going out to crazy parties and crazy clubs and stuff like that, and I'm trying, and then I met my girl, and my girl was Like I said, she was Chinese and from a Baptist family, so they had nothing for Halloween, man. It didn't mean anything to them. If anything, and the Baptist part was probably like, oh, it's a I mean, I remember in Pennsylvania, I knew so many people that were so religious, and Halloween was like, oh, that's Satan's holiday. I mean, at work, the jobs I work, people would tell me that, oh, that's Satan's holiday, and I'm like, all right, whatever, you know, Rube. So, and she always liked that. I mean, she liked a lot of the macabre stuff. She was really cool. And so, the first Halloween we had together, we said, let's make a jack-o'-lantern. And she was like, oh, boy, I always wanted to do that. So that was like my very fond memory. And so I said, hey, let's go to the Halloween parade in Greenwich Village. And she's like, yeah, okay. So Um, I know people that had gone there. I know a guy that used to sell stuff there. It's a big deal. It was crazy, always crazy. But I said, let me go. Right, so we went. It's 2003. It was. There's literally like 4 million people packed into like 10 square streets. So we went there, and we wanted to watch the parade, but it was almost impossible to even get close to the damn thing. Every side street was packed with all kinds of people, drunk people, people in costumes, whatever. So we went down one street, and well, we got a point. We got a sort of a vantage point, so we're watching. Then I noticed that the crowd on the street is increasing in number. Okay. We started to get pushed into the wall of a building, like a. So I picked her up, and we walked up on the bedding. Like they had like raised beds for like flowers and like trees and stuff like that, but still an apartment in the middle of Manhattan, the village. And then more people started jumping on top of those things, and we started getting pushed against the walls of the building itself. Okay, this wasn't good. This was not a good thing. So I was like, I was like, I said, I don't like this. I need to get you out of here, because she was small, and relatively fragile, very gutsy, but she had a health issue, right? So she's like, and she was very smart. She's like, yeah, it's getting a little crazy here. Let's get out of here. So I grab her, and we go to move, and I remember there's a woman and another dude sort of blocking us. So I go to the guy, I go to him, I go, hey, excuse me, I want to try to go. The woman, he didn't say nothing. The woman said, he goes, we're not moving for you. I mean, she had a thick accent like me. She's like, we're not fucking moving for you, right? And the guy looked at me like he was trying to be hard, right? So I'm kind of like, I have my girl in my arms, like she's like pressed against me, because we're running out of physical space. It was getting dangerous. So I said, come on, we gotta go. She goes, no, what did she goes, what did I fucking tell you? All right. I would say I lost it, but I didn't lose it. I had a sense of determination of, I had my girl in my rear arm. I pushed past the woman. I looked at the guy. I just stared him in the eyes, daring him to do something as I pushed my girl through, literally knocking him aside. And I looked at him the whole time. Okay, I was waiting for him to try to throw something or grab me, throw a shot, and I was ready for it. I had my chin tucked, and I stared at him the whole fucking time. Okay, and then we got past, and we started moving out, and I pushed my way through the crowd, and some people had a problem with that. But I looked back at that guy again. He looked like he wanted to kill me. Okay, but he didn't do shit. Okay? And then we got out, and she's like, "Oh my God!" She goes, "Why are people being such assholes tonight?" And I'm like, "I don't like what I'm seeing here. I really don't like what I'm seeing." And then so we found another vantage point, which was a little safer. I think it was on West 4th, actually. And then all throughout the night, I saw people getting attacked. All throughout the night, I saw people getting punched out and laid out on the pavement. And there were pigs everywhere, not doing anything as usual. Right? So finally, I remember one guy, one dude, the brother, had a problem with this Trinidadian dude, right, or Guyanese dude, and they were having words, but they couldn't hit each other, or they couldn't hit each other because there's too many people shoulder to shoulder. So the brother literally jumped up in the air and threw like a U-shaped punch downward. It was almost vertical. Caught the Trinidadian dude in his face and smashed his shades apart. And then the dude and he had a friend with him. They hit him, and he ran off. And the dude his nose was leaking all over the pavement. So anyway, that was an interesting night. And on the way back to West 4th Street to get on the station by Waverly, there were gangs of kids with masks walking around like stalking people. So that was the last time. That was the first time and the last time I went to the New York City Village Halloween parade. You know, no thanks. What a. You know what? One more video to come.